at the end, if y'all want me to take my mask off, I can step there. Y'all can take a
Okay,
picture
yeah,
or
maybe
something.
Tammy can take a portrait of you with
Yeah.
some of your beautiful work.
Yeah, I'm high risk, so I try to be very careful,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We should all be being careful.
I got all 3 shots, but you never know. Look, Vance got
Look
3 shots and he's got it,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it's sad.
yeah.
Mm.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna do a little intro, and then I'm gonna just for the record, and then I'm gonna basically ask you. I'm gonna say your name, and then I'm gonna ask you your name. So it'll feel a little weird when I do that, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So you're like, okay. And like I said, this is for the Library of Congress, and we're so grateful for you spending
I
time
think
with
that's
us.
awesome.
Yeah, it's really
Jeez.
awesome, and what we're really
We
excited.
need to be in there.
Yeah, and also that we're able to do it in community. You know, Houma people working with Houma
Yeah.
people to make this record. It feels really special. So,
Oh yeah.
so yeah. So we're here with Miss Morning Dove Verret Hopkins in Houma, Louisiana, and today is June 25th, 2002. Can you please tell us your name and where we are today?
Uh, we're in Bayou Blue, really. They call it Houma, but I'm in Bayou Blue, which is 5 minutes from Houma, Louisiana. And my name is Morning Dove Verret Hopkins.
Where were you born?
I was born in Bayou de Large.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Bayou de Large is like? And
Well, it's a long, long story, but we're going to make it short. My father trapped, fished, and hunted for a living. And we used to be offshore like 9 months out of the year because we didn't have to go to school in those days. And so there was a season for everything. There was a season like for trolling when y'all came in and seen the shrimp dock in the front. There was a season for trolling. There was a season that you could go and get oysters, which was mostly toward winter. There was a season for trapping, and you would get muskrats, otters, and stuff like that, raccoons and whatever. And you'd come home and you would clean them and sell the hide. And it depending what time of the year and stuff, the hide could go for real good in those days, which nowadays is no money compared to the way we lived back then. And like I said, we was 9 months out of the year out there on the water. We had a big, gigantic camp. It was so nice. It was half on land and half on water. And you literally could jump off of the porch into the water. So we used to swim in summertime every day. And they had an otter family that used to live around the bend. That's why I love otters. One of my dresses that I decided, I said, oh, I think I'm going to put otters on here. So she's not finished yet. I worked on it and I put her on the side, but I need to finish her, because I have another one I've danced with otters. But anyway, we lived off the land. We hardly ever bought anything. My mom made just about everything we needed, all of our clothes. She never knew how to read a pattern, like I don't neither. But if I look at something, I can make it. And she could do anything from a dress to building cabinets. You just learn how to, that's survival, and stuff. And it was a good life. I mean, we didn't know that we weren't rich, like what some people call today rich. We was rich in our way, because we had all of the herbs we wanted when we were sick. My mama knew how to do all that because of her mom and my great granny that delivered probably half of Houma, because she was an old midwife, her and her mom and my mom. And so when we were sick, she knew how to take care of us. And making clothes was just something that you did. You just didn't go buy stuff. I don't even remember how old I was before I ever wore clothes that was out of a store. And the food, as far as the food, we were so rich with food because in wintertime there was your duck and your geese, and they're delicious, you know. And then you had, my mama knew how to do coon the best because you have to know how to do it because it's got certain glands that you must take out, you know. And so she used to cook that. It was so good. And we raised our own hogs, so we didn't have to go buy our pork. And we had those big jars about like this and about like this. And just like some people dries meat, we do that too, but we would also put our meat in salt because it preserves it for a long, long, long time, you know. And so that's how we preserved a lot of our meat. And but we had fresh meat often because it was off the land. You know, you had rabbits and it was good, deer, you know. And when it was season for the shrimps, we had all of the crabs that we wanted to eat. We had all of the shrimp we wanted. We had, you know, fish coming out of the trough, and we all helped. I mean, I come from a big, big family. We had 10 kids, you know, and everybody knew what they had to do. It was not really a chore. It was just a way of life, you know. I mean, somebody was doing something, you'd jump in and help them, you know. My dad would come home with stacks. I'm talking about this high, I'm not kidding, of muskrats and all kinds of stuff that he'd get out of his traps. We all knew how to skin them and you know, and put them on the mold. It had to be skinned, it had to be defleshed, and then you had to put it on a certain mold, and then it had to be hung up in this certain area where my dad used to hang all of his hides and dry them. And they used to have this guy, his name was Ninin Falgu. That's the only name I knew him by, was Mr. Ninin Falgu. And he would come by, him and a couple of other guys, and they would come pick up my dad's hides, you know. And different hides went for different prices. And whenever you caught, which was rare, but once in a great while, matter of fact, I was telling that to my son, Brave Eagle. I said, you know, when your papa used to catch a white otter, that meant money. And when he'd come home, of course, nowadays it would probably be big, big money. But back then it was pretty good because he'd come home and he'd say, you never get what I caught, you know? And he'd be all excited. So anytime you caught like a white muskrat or an otter or something like that, it was worth more money, you know? And it was a good life. Like I said, you know, I didn't know until I got older, really older, that you had to have money, you know? That's what people thought. You had to have money. And I'm there. You know, often I think about that. I wonder if they could go back and live like that, you know, off the land. And my dad knew when a hurricane was coming. We didn't have TV. I was like, oh God, 12 years old before we ever had a TV, you know. My mom had a radio she would play once in a while, you know. That's about it. But we never had to listen to the weather to see what the weather was. My dad knew, and you could tell by the animals. Animals know everything. You know, you could tell by the animals when a cold front was coming. You could tell by the way they acted if the hurricane was going on, you know. And my dad would say, well, we have to tie up the boats, he'd tell my brothers or my uncle that was there, because we always had company. And he'd say, we need to tie the boats up and we need to tie it a certain way. That way when the waves come and it would hit against the boats, it wouldn't break them and smash them, you know. It would go with the flow. So whenever the hurricane was there and we was like offshore, we never would spend it in our camp. Even if our camp was really secure because it was made out of pollens and stuff, and that's pretty good stuff. But we would spend the hurricane in our boat because Daddy had a gigantic boat. It was like a schooner type, you know, almost. And that way, whenever it would get real rough and the wind would come real hard, we was used to it. We wouldn't get seasick because we was used to the water, you know. And that's where we would spend our bad weather until it would be over in a day or two or three, depending how long it lasted, you know. And then we'd go back into camp, you know.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember your first hurricane that you spent in a boat?
Oh no, I was young.
Hmm.
Don't
Yeah.
don't remember. You know, the name back in them days, the name didn't matter to us. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
hurricane, the weather was fixing to get bad, and hurricanes, it was just another bad weather, just another day of bad weather. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was just a big hurricane that hit last year in 2021,
Yeah.
Hurricane Ida.
Uh huh.
Did you fare okay? And
Well, this last one you're talking about in August.
yeah.
Well, one of my daughters, Tenderheart, you know, uh, she lost her home.
Mm.
You know, a big, gigantic tree fell right smack in the middle and just went all the way to the floor, you know. So thank goodness that they weren't there, because every time I see a hurricane coming, I'm on the phone telling my kids, y'all gotta come here. This is an old house, but she's tough, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all come here. And so for Ida, I actually wasn't gonna leave. I was actually gonna stay right here. And my kids, they went ballistic. And the chief who lives next door, you know, and he says, Dove, if I have to take you and put you on top of the car like the Beverly Hillbillies, I'm going to do that. He said, because you're not staying in this house, you know. And when I seen that they were worried, you know, and I said, well, okay. I said, so let's see what we're going to do here. So I decided to go to the center, you know, to the tribal center. I decided to go there. So I'm packing, you know, everything that I think is important, you know, papers and whatever, and trying to take care of stuff for Tenderheart and my two grandbabies, you know. She's got two kids, and I have a bunch of grandkids, but these are always with me, you know. and so anyway, we got everything ready, you know, and so we went out there, and needless to say, it was rough out there because it got damaged really, really bad. I mean, the roof was coming down, and we had to move around, you know, different. It was really bad, you know. So as soon as we seen that it was calming down, you know, that we thought we was out of the danger area, we decided to come back here. And the house was okay. The shed in the back, one of my sheds in the back, went through one of my windows, but it was no big deal. Nothing we couldn't handle, you know. So thank goodness that all of us was safe, you know, and nobody got hurt with everything. It was bad though, and a lot of people, you know, lost their home. It was, you would get in the car, and I went right around just to check and see what was going on, and you couldn't do that without crying. You just couldn't do it, you know, because people had nothing. You know, they had their life. Thank you, Jesus, for that. They had their life, you know, and God spared them. But the home was literally gone. I mean, houses upside down, 18-wheelers upside down. It was really, really, it was a bad devastation, you know. And when you look now, they're having lots and lots of trouble with insurance company. Insurance company don't want to pay. Some of them wants to go bankruptcy, and you pay insurance, and then when it comes time for you to collect, you know, you can't do it, you know, because they're giving a lot of trouble. So here it is. I think this is what, 11 months later or 10 months later. I mean, that was last August, you know. And August is right around the corner, so this is like 10 months, I think. And they're still got blue tarps on top of houses. I mean, you go around, and there's still people that's living in tents, you know. And it's sad. It really is sad, you know, to see things like that, you know. And
yeah, no, it is. It's heartbreaking, and the road home is a long one for
It
many
is.
people.
It is because you know it's when you think hot like it is. When you think about people living in a tent or living in their car, you know, the first thing you think about is dehydration. You know, in within 10 minutes they could die if they don't have any air going in there. I mean, that's how bad it is.
Yeah.
And your heart got to go out to people like this, you know.
Yeah.
And but for the hurricane, when we came back over here, I'm old school, so if I have to make a fire outside, I'm good with that. You know, if I have to have flour, sugar, and a little salt, and cooking oil or lard, I'll make fry bread. You know, and the freezers, I had shrimp. I had a lot of deer meat because I got a son that he's always hunting. You know, and so I had all the kind of stuff in the freezer because I'm a hoarder when it comes to food. You know, I was just raised with a big family. You know, when he kills a deer, we're gonna put it in the freezer. We're gonna make hamburger meat out of it. You know, sausage and everything. So what we did is when we got back over here from the tribal center, I'd only open up the freezer when I really had to. That way I knew my stuff was going to stay cold for at least 4 to 5 days, you know. And then my husband Ken had just bought a generator just before he passed away. And it had never been used, you know. And so we took a bunch of containers and had to drive to Morgan City to go get gas because you couldn't find nothing over here. Most of the fill stations was all damaged, you know. And that's what we did, you know. So at least I kept the refrigerator and the freezer going. I figured everything else, we have old-timey oil lamps, you know. And it was nothing because, it was a little disconvenient, but it was nothing that I couldn't handle because that's the way we was raised back then, you know. Yeah, you know. And the butane bottle, you know, to cook outside. And I had a grill. We could throw that over a fire and make you some hamburgers and stuff, you know. So, yeah, it was sad. But compared to what some people had it, look, we had it good compared to what some people had it, you know.
Yeah, wow.
And so what do? You know, you try to help them, you know, if your neighbors around here. We was the first one back here on the whole street. But as people got here, you know, we tried to see if we could help them. You know, that was it.
Yeah.
I had a friend that used to say, if their weather gets bad and we get a hurricane, I want to be with Dove. Those Indians are definitely going to eat. He was right, though.
Well, I'm so glad that you got really lucky. And
yeah, I was blessed. I really was blessed. My children and I, my whole family. We had damage, yes, but that we was blessed because, you know, our life is worth more than anything in the whole wide world, you know.
True.
So,
very true.
yeah, we was really blessed. So hopefully we're not going to get a real bad one this year, but I'm worried, and I'm going to tell you why, because the weather is so hot right now. That's telling me one thing, that the water is hot. When the water gets hot, she's coming. Because, you know, that's what she likes. You see, she likes that hot water, that warm water. So before you know it, if she stays like this, we're going to probably get, it might not be bad, which I hope to God it's not, but we're going to probably have some because that water's pretty warm. And she's been warm now for at least 2 months or better.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting ready. We're ready. If it happens, we're ready, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If a hurricane does come, do you evacuate with, we're sitting here in your home, and there are all these beautiful,
it comes with
pieces. Does it all go
yes.
with you?
Yes. Not all, because, trust me, honey, I got lots. This is a sample of what I have, you know. But, yeah, I pick certain things. Like these, believe it or not, these little old moccasins that's got a hole in it. Yeah, some things you just don't leave behind, you know. Some
Yeah.
things I can always make some more like this,
Right.
you know. But this was my grandson right here, right here, right here. A couple of my grandsons right there. So that came with me, stuff like that, you know. And but you know, some things, yeah, you leave some things behind, but some things they're memories, you know. My daughter calls them treasures,
Yes.
you know. And my mom made Jasmine, one of my granddaughters. I have it in the back. You'd have to see them. They're that small, but they're fully beaded, you know. Things like that. It comes with you. Yeah, yeah, you know. Her first little dress, stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of my stuff comes. Drum. I have some drums that comes.
Can you tell us about this work that you've been doing all of your life? It looks like this is maybe a lifelong
the
journey.
thing is, you know, I love dancing at the powwows. I love it because to me, you know, I know everybody calls it powwow, but to me, it's a gathering. It's like a family reunion. It's like I get to see my friends that I haven't seen sometime from one season to another, and you know, you get to laugh and eat together, and it's just awesome. Tammy puts one on, and I'm gonna tell you, when she puts on a powwow, there's not a soul hardly that's there that you don't know. You know everybody because you've been dancing with them forever, you know. And that's one of our favorite powwows, her powwows. I mean, I've been to some humongous powwows, but the tiniest ones is the one that I like the best because it's more homey, more family, more know everybody, you know. And so we have all of us, and I can talk for all of my kids and my brothers and all, you know. We love the small powwows, you know, real good. And so a lot of people, matter of fact, those tiny little moccasins right there, I just finished them yesterday. And that little skirt I made about 2 months ago, I guess. And I wanted to make a little pair of moccasins to go with it. So that's how those moccasins got done. But the thing is, those were the first moccasins that I've done in, oh my goodness, maybe 2 years, almost 3 years. And the reason for that now, to sell. Okay, now I didn't sell these. I gave them, you know, the little dress, and I just gave it away. But I used to make them and sell them. But when the kids started dancing, the grandkids started dancing, the great grandkids started dancing. Well, it was more important for me to see my babies out there dancing, you know, with moccasins and all on, and trying to make them some traditional clothes. It was more important for me to do that than for me to make the stuff and sell it. You understand? Because if I put them in the circle and I see them dancing out there, that's my pay. You understand? So yeah, my heart is in it. It don't matter if I make a simple little ribbon skirt or a fully beaded whatever, you know. It's to see those babies out there doing that, you know, because we can dance now. You know, at one time, it wasn't cool to be an Indian, you know. My dad used to say, now. How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you come from? So if you got to take the blows, you take the blows. Now I understand that. You know, back then when you're young, though, it's hard to understand all that when you're young. But, you know, missionary school, you know, only went to school with Indian kids. We couldn't go with the white, you know, wasn't allowed. And we wasn't allowed to graduate, you know. It was years and years, way after my time, before people could graduate, you know. So, but you know, you always gotta love who you are. I wouldn't want to be nothing else in this whole wide world except this old mama that I am. I'm serious. I am, no amount of money. I am who I am, and I kind of like Dove. You know, yeah.
Well, you got a big fan club too, so.
Well, you know, I have good friends. I do. I have good friends, you know, and I know they would do anything for me, and I would do the same thing for them. They ring me up today and say, Dove, can you do this for me? I'd do it. If I can, I'll do it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the way it is. And like I said, instead of a powwow, no, it's a gathering. It's a family reunion. It's to hear who fell sick and who didn't and who won something and whatever. You know, you get to hear all of the gossip. You know, you get to laugh and cry with them sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your first experience with powwow? Or
oh, girl, I didn't know nothing. I really didn't. You know, and you know that was the sad part about it, because you know, well, it was sad in a way, but the thing is, we didn't have the means to go to powwows or do a lot of stuff like some people did, you know, which was okay because we didn't know about it, you know. But as I got older and I went to my first powwow, I'll never forget. I didn't know nothing about anything, you know, because except knowing that I was an Indian, that's it, you know. And I remember the first one I ever seen, I was beyond myself, you know, because I seen other Indians, you know, mostly I only knew Houma Indians, you know. I mean, I didn't travel, you know. I mean, you didn't leave the bayou. You were lucky if once in a great while you came to Houma, you know, and that wasn't often, you know, because there was really nothing here that for us to see or anything or do, you know. And with 10 kids, you know, Mama didn't drag all them kids to Houma. You know, she just, you know, it did. I was spoiled because I would climb the fence, you know, and that's the reason why I got to come to Houma every once in a while. I was rotten. I was spoiled, you know, and I was a little thing, and every time they would come to Houma, which was rare, but like if maybe one of them decided to get a toot pull or whatever, you know, and when I knew that they was going to leave me, I wasn't going to take that laying down, you know. And we used to have a fence that we had this 2-story house that we would, whenever we'd come in from offshore, you know, from the camp, we had a really big house that used to belong to my grandfather. But as our family got bigger and bigger, Papa seen that we needed more room because we had a camp boat that was on water, but it was pulled on land. But as our family got bigger, you know, he decided, well, you know what? I'm going to build a house across the bayou, and y'all can have the big house. And that's how we wound up with this big 2-story house, you know. And it was awesome. But the only way, we had to cross by boat to go where the road was, because it was a gravel road, no blacktop, no none of that in those days. And you could count the cars in one day that would pass. You were lucky if they had 5, you know. And yeah, that was the only way to go, was by boat. So anyway, Papa had one of my papas, okay, my daddy's dad. That's my daddy up there and my mom. And my dad's daddy used to have a big garden. I'm talking about a big garden. And he'd have watermelons, green beans, and everything else. And that's how we got some of our vegetables. He'd send it offshore to us, and we would send shrimp, crab, and all kinds of stuff and meat for them, because they were old people. We was taught to take care of our old people like that. And so anyway, he used to have a fence that would separate like our yard from his garden, you know. And so whenever they got ready like to go to town, for whatever reason it was, well, I knew if I climbed the fence, they was bringing me. I knew it, because they didn't want me to fall in the bayou. Oh yeah, I'm telling you, and I was young. You would not believe this. So I would climb that fence, and I would holler in our language, you know, Kid Mo Pa, Kid Mo Pa, Kid Mo Pa, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me. Yeah. Oh yeah. Kid mon pa. And I knew if it was my dad, he had a heart this big. Mom, her, on the other hand, she would say, kid là. She's doing it in French, you know. She said, kid là, peut faire ça avec qui vient avec nous autres. Kid là, fait tout le temps, elle fait ça. All the time she does this. She climbs the fence. What you do, you turn around and go get her. So I'm telling you. So, and boy, when I knew she was putting it on to my dad, you know, I'd cry alligator tears. And I meant it. I didn't want them to leave me, you know. So, man, I'd holler, kid mon pa, s'il vous plaît, boy. I'd be holding on to that fence. And he'd tell Mama, look, she's getting closer and closer to the water. And I was, because I knew if I got close to the water, you know. And he'd tell her, tourne de bord, va chercher. Turn around, go get her. And I went to Houma. Yeah, I did. Now I look at it and I'm there. I did that. And I well remember, like I'm looking at all of this stuff. I did it. Mm-hmm. But you know, I knew that Dad would come and get me. My mom did not. She was on the other hand. But you see, Mom had to be tough. I mean, you got a bunch of kids, okay? And you can't let the kids rule. When you say no, no means no. Mm-hmm. Stop means stop, you know? Mm-hmm. We knew Mom, when she said no meant no, you know? But if Dad was there, girl, it was a different story. And my dad, you know, was a pretty nice-sized guy. But he was strict only in some things. He never did whip us. Never did. But Mom, oh, yeah. Mom was not worried about giving it to her. She would make up for Dad. And let me tell you what happened. One time, I know I'm not supposed to go into this, but look, one time my dad came in, and, you know, I was raised with 6 brothers. When you're raised with 6 brothers, look, you learn to be tough. You can shoot like them. You can do anything that they do, okay? And I was young. And we used to, you know, you make your own games when you're small. You know, you don't go to the store and buy nothing. We didn't know how to do none of that. We used to take the wild cucumbers. There was some little orange-colored cucumbers, and we would take a stick out of the tree. You know, we would fix a stick ball with a point on it, and we would pop them little cucumbers on there, you know. And my brothers would stand on the bank of the water, and he would swing them to see how far they could go, you know. And naturally, you know, well, come on, let's see. You think you can beat us, but and I could. Most of the time, I could give my brothers a run for their money, you know. And so he says, one of my brothers says, come stand right here. We want to see if you can swing it and make it go across the bayou. Well, I was young, I listened, you know. So I went, put all my cucumbers, man, I must have had 12 of them, you know. And I turned around, boy, and I swung those little cucumbers, and they all went, broke all my dad's windows on the boat. And I just, well, I'm small, so I'm looking at that, and I'm there, oh, man, Mama did too. Mama's going to kill us. You know, it wasn't Dad. Mama's going to kill us, you know. So, boy, they all ran, you know, left me there. So naturally, you know, it hurt my heart that I had did that to my dad's boat. So, you know, I told him, I says, you got to come see, viens voir, you know. And he looks at it like that, and he said, where's them boys? Because he knew, you know. Are you ces garçons là? Are you where they at, you know? And he said, why you did that? I said, they told me to stand right here. That's why I want them, you know. So Mom, she comes out and she says, you need to whip her because she needs not to listen to them boys like that, you know. And when she said that, I'm running. My little legs are going 100 miles an hour. And we used to have iron beds that, it wasn't like beds like it is now, you know. It was the iron bed that, it was off the floor. It was off the floor like so much, you know. So when she said that, I just zeroed in and I went underneath the bed. I figured if I go underneath the bed, maybe Daddy couldn't get me, you know, which he had never hit us before now. So, man, when I ran, boy, and I slid underneath that bed like that, you know, and he was still looking for the boys. You know, your mom told him to come in because she says that she was going to whip me, you know. And boy, he come right after her, you know. And he said, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, you know. And she said, all right, I'm going to see. All of this is done in French, okay? I'm going to see if you're going to do that. Well, he took his belt off. And when he took his belt off, oh, my heart was just dying because I thought, well, maybe he's really going to whip me, you know. Well, he got on his knees, and here I am all the way against the wall over there, you know, and I'm there, please, Daddy, please, please don't hit me, please, please. I'm telling him, pardon-moi, pardon-moi. Sorry that I was sorry, you know. And boy, he took that belt off, and he wrapped it around his hand like this, and he knew how far to wrap it because every time he'd swing it underneath the bed, it was about this far before it would get me, okay? So I thought to myself, he can't reach. He's too big to get underneath this bed. Well, partner, let me tell you, my mom comes in. She looks at him like that. I knew you was going to do that. She said, I knew you was going to do that. That's why she's rotten the way she is. It's because you let her get away with everything. And she took that iron bed. She threw that iron bed out of the way. And here I am against the wall like a poor little lizard. I'm against the wall like a lizard like this, you know. And she's there. Give me that belt over here. And he's there. No. And she's there. Give me that belt. Boy, and she took it out of my dad's hand. I guess he let her have it. So I guess he figured he knew I was going to have at least a lick or two, you know. So anyway, she had threw the bed out of the way. She got me. And boy, on the second time that she hit me, he went and grabbed her hand and he said, that's enough. You got her. That's enough. He said, now I'm going to deal with them boys. Because he knew it was their fault that did it. But that's the kind of dad I had, you know. He was so awesome. And, you know, whenever he'd come in with muskrats or whatever the catch was, we didn't have the lights, you know, okay, it was coal oil lights, and it was the lights, you know, that you put like a, how do you call them lights? That you got to pump the little thing to make with the little socket. Anyway, it was all type like that, okay. And anyway, the pile was, let's say, right here, and I mean a pile, okay. And then, like, my uncle would be there because we'd never eat alone, you know, because they would trap in all same areas where we was. And so we'd all be gathering because he was actually teaching us too. You know, we'd watch him how he'd do stuff, and that's how we learned to be good. That's how we learned to do the hides, you know, from watching Dad and my uncle and Papa and them. And but they would tell stories. The whole time they were working, they would tell old-timey stories about like when they were young or their dads and all was young, you know. And it was awesome, you know. It was just passed down, you know. And when the kids were small, I used to tell them certain stuff, you know. So it was neat, you know. It was a learning thing, you know. So yeah, we never had the phones and TVs and all, but we didn't miss it because we didn't even know what them things were, you know. I mean, we had no clue. If we'd have known, we'd have probably been dangerous if we'd have known the stuff they got nowadays. Oh my God, you know.
What is your dad and mom's names?
My dad's name was Victor Villiers Verret. That was my dad's name. My mom's name was Marie Lucy Parfait. She was a Parfait, okay? And she was from Dulac. My mom was from Dulac. And my dad was from Bar de Lorge. Because a lot of time back then, you didn't marry close, you know, like from one bayou to the other. Like the tribes, some tribes still do that, you know. They get somebody. He used to say he had the prettiest woman, the prettiest girl in all of the bayous, and she was. Listen, I'm serious. My mom was gorgeous. She was. She was really, really pretty, and she wasn't really mean. She just whipped us if we needed it. Really, we did. Trust me, we got into some stuff. You know, we barefooted, you know, underneath the platform, you know, and you know, I mean, we made our own fun. We really did. So somebody had to, you know. And she didn't whip often, but boy, she did, you know. But yeah, she was beautiful. But he used to say that. He used to pick on her quite often, you know, and say, boy, I got to watch that. I got to keep my eye all the time. Because I know them people are always looking at you. But I got you. Yeah, he was something else.
That's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Did she teach you how to sew?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, Mom, like I told you from the beginning, she didn't know how to read a pattern because you know. Now she was smart. She was not book smart, but she was smart. I'd put her smartness against almost anybody. We would when she would go to town. I have a little dress that's right here in the hall. She went to town for whatever the reason was, and when she came back, she had a little piece of like a royal blue, a real dark blue material. It was velvet, okay? And so I remember her sitting at the sewing machine with this piece of material, you know, and I'm there. Ooh, that's pretty. So I said, Julie, get your fabric. So I asked my mama what she was going to make with that. She said, I'm making you a dress. And I said, really? She said, yep, I'm going to make you a little dress. And she did. That's the dress that's in that picture. She made me that little dress. And she just out of her head, you know. So that's how I learned. I wish I would know how to do a pattern. I could be dangerous, but you know I don't. And I've tried. Every once in a while, I even bought the one that says simplicity, you know. And I'm there. I could do this. I bet you I could do that. I think if I'd study it long enough, I probably could. But why should I? I can do it without. You know, I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, because I watch Mom, you know, do stuff, you know, like the little shirts and stuff. Sometimes she would undo something. And she didn't have the pattern, so she would undo it all, and something that's good, and then she'd cut it, sew it back together, and make another, you know, yeah, dresses, everything, pants, you know. Even our underwear was all made. Everything was made. You bought. Back then, we couldn't, like I said, couldn't come in like we wanted because we was offshore. Now we did have a supply boat that would come down. It was about maybe, oh, it could have easy. I'd say maybe about 50 foot or longer, a big supply boat, and he would have anything you would want. He would have from a needle to a shovel or anything that you wanted. They'd have it on there. But that was his job. He had a big store in by the lodge, and about once a week they would go down, you know, and if somebody needed something, there it was. It was your rolling store on the water, you know. But we hardly ever bought anything now needles and thread, stuff like that. But as far as food goes, and he sold material. Back in those days, it was the little calico mostly, okay? But I don't want to jump to another thing, but the calico that you pay a fortune for nowadays, 100-pound sack of rice was your white material, your white cotton material that you could make your underclothes with, okay? Your calico came for like chicken feed or cow feed, okay? And there was 1 yard for every 100 pound, there was 1 yard of material. So if you wanted something small, there it is. If you wanted something bigger, you save, you know, your material for another time, because you know that was our way to make clothes back then, you know. But the little boat, the little supply boat would come out there, and we bought like coffee, sugar, rice. We made our own cooking oil because, you know, when we slaughtered the hogs, you always save like bacon grease and stuff like that, you know. And so there's not too much stuff that food-wise that was bought. Mom made homemade bread every day, every day. I mean, the rise, and boy, I tell you what. And you know, where we was, we lived in a place called Blue Hammond. It was a big, gigantic, about from here, probably further than that building across the street. And it was called a platform, okay? And it's made like this. And it's rows and rows and rows and rows. Whenever the shrimp was small, they'd bring the shrimp in. My daddy would put it in these gigantic ballers, and they would ball it. Then they would take it out of that. Then he would put it in a, I don't know how you call it in English, but what it does, it dries it kind of, and then you take it from there and you spread it out on this wood that's made like this, okay, and you spread it out, and it was dried shrimp, okay, and people nowadays, girl, they pay a fortune for dried shrimp, unbelievable. We had all the dried shrimp we wanted, and my daddy did that for the man that owned the platform, because we got to stay in the camp for nothing because my daddy was, we was always there, so we was the overseer. But all on this end is where our big camp was. But on this end, they had these little chalet camps, and they had like some cousin, two of our cousins, my dad's cousins, that they were there with their family, but they had like small family, like only one or two kids, and boy, Mama would make them homemade bread, and girl, the whole thing would be smelling, yeah, and it would rise every day. I'm talking about, with a big family, homemade bread, and then, she'd make homemade jam and all kinds of stuff, everything was homemade, She could take sweet potatoes and make magic with it, she could, yeah, She'd make preserve, she'd cut it a certain way, girl, and she would cook that sugar until it would get nice and thick, She'd add a little dab of cinnamon and a little dab of nutmeg in there, and then just when it was nice and thick, boy, she'd put them sweet potatoes in, and you had homemade sweet potato fries, but in a gravy, in a syrupy gravy with old-timey butter from the cow. Can you know how dangerous that was? I'm serious. That was so good. You could, that was every day, She'd always have, and when I look, and I used to tell that to my kids, the kids nowadays can go to the store and they just go pick whatever they want, all the candy that they want, okay? My mama would have never allowed us to do that, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's an old-timey Christmas candy. And some of them is made like a ribbon, and it's different flavors, okay? Well, my mom used to buy a big jar, because us, and we only had like every day one. Once in a great while, she'd break down and give us two, But we were satisfied because that's the way it always was. Mm-hmm. So since it was that way, it was not that strange to us. You'd offer two candy to a kid nowadays. I don't know what they'd say, but I bet you it wouldn't be nice.
Give me more.
yeah,
Yeah.
And that's the way it was, though. We didn't eat much sweets, And Mom and I would make homemade cakes and homemade pies, tata la bouillie they call it, sweet potato pie. Boy, she was a baker and a half, So she taught us how to do all of these things, But yeah, we just. But when I see them kids going, and I'm there, I don't think they'd have made it. Right? I just don't think they'd have made it.
Did she also teach you how to do this beadwork, this beautiful beadwork that we're
No, my mama was jack of all trade. I'm telling you, jack of all trade. Could do anything from carpenter work to make a piece of material turn into something nice. But I was fortunate enough to have two moms, okay? My blood mom, the one that I talk about all the time, well, she's the one that jack of all trade. But my other mom, she was from the Southern Cheyenne tribe, okay? And she was awesome. I loved her as much as I loved my mom, because she was so good to me and taught me lots and lots and lots of things. And one day, I was trying to work on some beads, I'll never forget. And I was really making a big mess, you know. And she's there, you know, daughter. She used to call me, you know, daughter, sit down right here. Let me show you this, you know. And I said, okay. So that's how it started. I sat there. She cut out the piece, you know, and she says, now make your moccasin, and then I'm gonna show you. After you make your moccasin, I'll show you how to bead it. So she showed me how to bead.
How did you
You know?
guys? How did you and her find each other? Or
At a powwow.
Okay.
At a powwow, yeah. I actually knew her brother first, my Uncle Ralph. Uh, he was a doctor and he was a major in the military and stuff, you know, and gourd dance. And I love, I'd rather gourd dance than do anything, you know. And I used to hang around with him all the time. I just loved him to death. And then one day, here this little skinny woman was with him, you know, and I thought to myself, you know. And then he says, come here, daughter. He used to always take me like a daughter, you know, and he's there. This is my sister, and he introduced me, you know. And we made it just like that. We connected just like that, you know, and that's how we started. And she taught me lots and lots of things, and all of these moccasins. She's Southern Cheyenne tribe. That's why I make them Southern Cheyenne. You know, they always make a little loop back here. All of those moccasins, you'll see a little thing in the back. Even these right here, you see? This is Southern Cheyenne right here. I do that on purpose. That's my mom's mark. Yeah. Give that to her. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And what is her name again? Sorry.
Irene.
Irene.
Irene Hamilton. But her blood name was Irene Drew. That was, you know, Dr. Ralph Drew. You can look him up on them things. Yeah, you can look him up on your iPad, whatever. You know, and you put in Colonel Drew, okay, Colonel Ralph Drew, and boy, he's gonna pop up. He's got all kinds of, you know, and my mom too. You can put her, Irene Hamilton. You might be able to still get her under Irene Drew, but if you look up Irene Hamilton, you're gonna see some of the work. My work is nothing compared to my mom. I mean, she's dangerous. Yeah, she was, you know. But they're both gone, you know. My dad's gone. My two moms are gone, you know. But you know, they're still with me. Every time I do any kind of beadwork, I always talk with her, you know. I always ask her to help me with it, to help me succeed. And then I sage everything. I do my little prayer, and I say, okay, you got to help me guide this, Mom. I don't want to mess this up, you know. And I'll just talk to her like I'm talking to you, you know. And so far, so good. She's listening. Yeah.
What other kinds of would you consider yourself an artist? I guess that's one question. And would you consider this art or?
I would. It's my art.
Yeah.
I would, you know,
would
everything
too.
I do, you know. I mean, I even make dream catchers, and I make awesome dream catchers out of weeping willow. I use muscadine vine, you know. I use different honeysuckle vine. And what I do is I try to leave all of the characters on it, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people just take the vine board, they rip everything off. And it makes it harder to make, but I leave the little whining things on it, and it comes out, to me, I call it character, you know. I leave all of that. It just, they get tangled now when you're making it. It's harder, but it come out so pretty, you know. So yeah, to me, it's my art. Some people might think, no, I don't know. It doesn't matter what they think, you know. Makes me feel all right. And when I'm working with all my stuff, or if I'm making an outfit for myself or one of the kids, you know, I really like it. I like doing it, you know. I like that because I want to see them use it, you know.
Do you think of it?
And it's something that, you know, we should never be allowed to forget who we are or where we come from. We should never be allowed to forget that, you know, because My mom, my dad, my grannies, and all, they paved the way for us. I might have thought I had it hard when I was young, but I'm sure they had it a lot harder than I did. You know? Yeah, I mean, yeah, my story might be some of it might be sad, but a lot of it is okay too, you know? Yeah.
Have you ever sold your work at markets or at
Yeah,
powwows?
I sure did. I sold, you name it. I've sold regalias, I've sold moccasins for good money, you know, and I've sold shawls. Oh my God, I could have sold this one, especially, I don't know how many times, you know. And I kind of like quit when the kids started wanting stuff. You know, I just decided, well, money's good, but if they come to me and they say, Whitney, you know, I would like to have a ribbon skirt, or Whitney, can you make me another pair of moccasins? I can't even explain how happy that makes me, because that means they want to dance. You know? So yeah, so the money's good. Maybe one day I'll have to. Hope not. I hope I can keep feeling the way I feel right now, because I'm old, and
Yeah.
that's I feel that's what I'm here for. You know, what's the use of getting old if you can't teach your kids and your kids and your great grandkids? What's the reason? You know, to me, that's the purpose of God letting us still be here. You know, in the morning when I get up, I always thank Him. Thank you for letting me open up my old eyes, Jesus. I do. You know.
Yeah.
And I want to believe that there's a reason why I'm still here. My dad, my dad died of a massive heart attack at 39 years old. And I had a daughter, the one that passed away. She had a stroke at 16 years old. So a lot of that stuff runs in my family, you know. So I tell that to the kids all the time, especially Bravey, because he's got what they call Burgess disease. It's incurable, you know. But he's still here, you know. So I thank you, Jesus, you know, every day, you know, that He's got me here for a reason. So I want to try to be, um, try to make a mark. Try to, one day when I am gone, they say, you know, my Whitney did all of this. When we asked her to do something, she did it for us, you know, just so she could see us out there dancing. You know, I want them to remember all of this, and I think they will. And, you know, they tell me that. My kids and my grandkids, you know, they'll tell stories of my life, and because I just given y'all a fraction, you know. But you know, my kids will tell stories of to other people. This is how my mama used to do this. This is why my mama used to do that, and I'm there. Well, it didn't go in one ear, not the other. It stayed in the middle, you know. And they're passing it down, and they pass it to their kids too, because I have a bunch of great grandkids, you know. So yeah, I want to think that He's keeping me here for a reason, you know.
Are you passing it down to the
I'm
sewing,
Jasmine.
and beading?
Now, two bears. Now, one of my grandson is trying, you know, but Jasmine, you know, she was doing pretty good with the beaded earrings, you know. So, but you know, they go through a certain stage, everything seems to stop, and it's on the phone with boys or whatever, you know. So hopefully it'll pass. So, you know, now when she comes here, totally different than when she's with her mom. You know, because over here we're always doing something or whatever, you know. But you know, when they're young, they got to go through certain stages. You got to let them, you know. So as long as you watch it, they don't get in trouble. That's all that matters.
Right.
Yeah. And I remind her all the time. I said, you know, you're a good girl. I want you to stay like that. You got the rest of your life to be a little fwinky. I call it fwinky, you know. I said, you got the rest of your life to be fwinky. Do whatever you want in life. But as far as right now, you're pure, and it'll never come back. Once you mess up, that's it. It's gone. I said, so you want to stay like that. I said, because, you know, and some of the ceremonies that I go to, they want you to do something, you have to be pure, you know, and she knows that. Some places that I've took her, that's the only way she could be with me, if she came in that in that status, you know. And so she knows that because I've explained that from the time she was kind of young, you know. This is how it is, and this is how they're going to allow you to come and do things. They're going to allow you to handle this piece right here or touch this piece if you stay centered, you know. So she knows that. And then if she messes up, well, then it's not that she didn't know. You understand? Yeah. So far so good. Yeah.
Have you traveled a lot with your work and going to powwows? Has that been part of your journey?
I have been to many, 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 many powwows, but I'm also a sun dancer, you know. And in Canada is where I sun dance, where I was sun dancing in Canada, you know. And I got to meet so many other tribes in my life. I mean, so many tribes in my life, you know. And everybody's always been so nice, you know. And took me in. After a while, you're one of us, Dove, you know. Come, we're having this gathering tonight, and we're doing this and we're doing that. Come, Dove, come. You know, be with us. You know, you're you know. So I'm blessed. I'm blessed to learn lots and lots of things that I learned. I actually learned from other tribes, believe it or not. Lots and lots of stuff that I learned. You know, and lots of stuff that these old eyes got to see was from other tribes and why they did this and why they did that, and you know. So I've been really. I'm grateful for that, you know. I never took none of it for granted. Not the smallest little thing that I was taught from other people and how they do things. Now, it comes around like to our way in a lot of ways, similar some things, but I've learned a lot of other stuff that these old eyes. And you know, when I was at Sundance and I'd be dancing, and you know, you're dancing, food and water you can't have for so many days, you know. And I'd be out there and I'd think to myself, if only even half of my tribe could see what I see. There's hardly a day that would go by that I didn't think like that, you know, because when I'd leave, I had stacks. I'm talking about hundreds of people that knew that I was a sun dancer and I was leaving for another year. And they do this prayer for me, Dove. My husband has heart trouble or whatever, you know. And it was awesome, you know, some of the way that those other tribals, you know, would do things. And some of those guys, you know, how they pierce, and the women pierce, but we don't pierce as bad as those guys, you know. And they'd be out there, boy, you can't help but, you know, you pray for them while they're going through that, you know. But it's worth it. It's all worth it, you know. Everything that takes place, there's a reason. He almost died while I was going, and I knew it. I was actually dancing, and you're not supposed to talk to anybody around you because you're in your own little area, you know. But it hit me. I mean, it hit me just like I'm looking at you, and I said, something's wrong with my boy. And I told my girlfriend that was on the side, I said, y'all need to pray for Brave Eagle. Something's going on. I don't know what it is, but boy, she passed the word, you know. Before you knew it, even the guys, everybody. And I had this weirdest feeling, you know. And I just worked on it harder while I was doing my dance. And the whole time, he had went into an unconscious state. He didn't even know his name or nothing, you know. And his wife was talking to him, and he couldn't. The words wouldn't come out. How you call that?
I had viral meningitis.
Yeah, you know, and
2 hours away from dying.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, we worked on him, you know, and I felt it when he was gonna, be all right. I seen him. I actually seen him. You know?
Mm.
Yeah. And then I said, I think it's going to be okay. But you can't call. You're in the woods. You're in the bush. Okay?
Mhm.
So I couldn't wait. I'm there. It's in your hands, God. It's totally in your hands. I don't know what to do. It's in your hand. The only thing I can do is pray, pray and pray and pray. And so when my fourth day, finally I came out, first thing I did was call on the phone. And come to find out, he was on one leg to die, and he's on the side of the bed asking for food. Yeah. So when they said, you was gone, whatever, and they're telling him that, and he's there. I seen my mama.
Mm.
He said, I seen my mama. I seen my mama praying for me.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Doctor said, give him food. He wants food. Give him food. Yeah,
From
that
out of
really
the blue-
happened.
From out of the blue, not being able to talk, I
Yeah.
started talking, and when they was able to understand what I was saying.
Yeah, they couldn't understand it. They just, all the doctors, they shook their head. He says, it's my mom. But it wasn't me. It was
Mhm.
him, God. He can do anything, So
Mhm.
it wasn't me. I was just asking, with all my heart.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's one of the stories, But,
Yeah.
I mean, you see, yeah, you travel, you see things, you do things, and I'm very, very grateful. Everything that I've witnessed so far, people being nice. People being nice is so good,
But you came back home too. You went and you always came back home.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like for Sundance, I'd leave about the middle of May, and I'd come back about the middle of June,
Mhm.
And my husband used to take care of everything for me. I only got a fifth grade education, period. That's it, And but common sense goes a long, long way, I used to know what to do, how to do it, and then all of the paperwork stuff, he'd fix everything for me,
Mhm.
and I couldn't fly. I used to fly, but I have an eardrum that was busted. So every time I would fly, I would get cruciating pain in my ears. And my ear doctor, he said, now, Dove, because I knew him good, he said, now, Dove, you don't want to lose your hearing. You better quit flying. He said, take the car, take the train, but don't fly no more. And I listened because after going through a really bad experience for about 3 times that I had flew, it was bad. So I decided to go by train. And it was the best thing I've ever did because you have to mentally get yourself ready for all of this, okay? And when I was on the train, I could do that. I could mellow myself, and get myself to myself. And you got all of these people around you, yet you're just yourself, So I could mentally get myself ready for that, And where I stayed at in Canada, there was several places, I'd go and visit girlfriends and all. But there was one place I'd stay. It was awesome. She had this beautiful looking cottage, with the sweat lodge in the back and the sonic and country, And she was like a lot in the way that I was, wanted to get it together before we went in because she used to be one of the dancers too, And but what it boils down to is I've always had good people, good friends, and that's what helped me walk a lot of walks, different stuff, yeah. So I'm talking too much.
I feel like I've gone on a journey with you. No, it's really great. I mean, all of that is what makes you who you are and has inspired.
And I don't want to
what
change,
you do.
I don't. I don't really want to be nobody but Dove. I really don't. I'm okay with me, Yeah.
Are there, as a Houma woman and thinking about your life journey, is there something that the tribe could have done to support you in your work, in your journey?
Oh,
that
yeah.
that
Especially when I went to Sundance.
yeah.
All of the Sundancers, you know, that used to dance, and that's my mom's tribe too, the Southern Cheyenne tribe in Oklahoma. I used to go to their Sundance. Now I didn't dance at their Sundance, but I was always a helper, you know, and stuff. But I mean, for different year that you, how many, depending how many year that you dance, you get different stuff. Like some of them gets horses and all kinds of stuff. Never got a copper penny from my tribe, not to help me on my trip. And it was actually people from other tribes that actually, some of my people didn't even know that I was a sun dancer, you know. And some of the people that knew me, that knew that I was from other tribes, would acknowledge that sometime at the powwow. This is a sun dancer. She's got the right to pick up an eagle feather. She's got the right to walk with that eagle staff. And, you know, yeah. They didn't have to give me $100 even, or $1. If they'd have said, now, Dove, we'd have loved to give you $10, $5, $1, you know, for you to buy you a sandwich on the train, you know, for you to have $1 in your pocket in case you need something, you know, or we're going to buy you tobacco for you, because, you know, tobacco is very, very important at a Sundance. It's like it's worth more than $1. It's worth more than $100 at a Sundance. A piece of cloth. I used to have, he can tell you, I used to have a box like this, nothing but yards of cloth, because that's every prayer that you ask for, that cloth is tied around that tree. That's a prayer, you know. They never offered, but they didn't know better. That's how I look at it. They didn't know better.
Right.
If they would even have a fraction of a clue, I think maybe it would have been different. But they didn't know better. So I learned a long time ago. Let it go. Let it go. If they didn't give it to you, and you made all of these sun dances without it, that means you didn't need it, Dove. That's the way I look at it, you know. And my kids and my husband used to say, "Don't worry, Dove. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it." Yeah. But yeah, I wish they would acknowledge it, even if they wouldn't have gave me a copper penny. Just say, "Oh, boy, Dove is going to do this," because you know what? Dove was praying for the tribe too. You know, I might have had a stack of names that I was praying for, but guess what? I'm praying, God, please let our tribe succeed. God, please let them have understanding in our tribe instead of fighting against each other, instead of pulling, one pulling here, one pulling there. You know, you put out prayers for your tribe, you know. It didn't stop me from doing that just because they didn't give me $1.
Are there any other Indigenous people who are artists or people in general? I mean, you've spoken about your moms and your dad, of course, but are there any other individuals that have inspired you in your life and in your work?
Oh, girl, many. Many, many, many. More than I can count. I'm serious. You know, somebody asked me that the other day. They said, "God, Dove, there's hardly nobody that you know that we know that don't know you, you know." And you know that's I'm telling you, I've been blessed to meet so many different people that has really, really inspired me, you know, and that I think the world of, you know, and that I highly respect. Tammy's one of them. Yeah, she's on my top of my list, because you know what? She has learned to do it on her own. You know, she is her own person. You might not always like maybe what she does or how she does it. That don't matter as long as she does it, and as long as she's got. And I can understand that because I'm like that, you know. But she has busted it. She could have well threw her hands up in the air and said, "Well, I'm gonna be at college. I'm gonna teach this, and that's it. I'm gonna wait for my retirement. Pull it when it's time for me to pull it." You know, she could have done all of the above, but what she did, No, she put other people, you know. She makes this garden, you know, with the herbs. She puts on powwow. She helps people that needs help. If you don't have food and you need to go to her house, I'm sure she'll throw you a sandwich or something, you know. I mean, there's so much that through the years I have seen her do ever since those kids was really tiny. She would drag them at the powwow, boy, you know, in the little strollers and stuff. I mean, I witnessed all of that, you know, and I know for a fact that it was not easy. I know that it was not easy. When it wasn't easy when they were small, and then when they got bigger, they have their own little way, and I'm sure you got to bite the bullet sometime, you know. And you know, she went through it, you know, and I mean, you know, she's, yeah, I have lots of respect. I highly respect Tammy. I really, really do. Yeah. To be honest with you, out of everybody in our tribe, on a scale of 1 to 10, she'd be the 10, way up there. That's the way I feel about her. That's exactly, and I mean that with all my heart. You know,
I agree.
because yeah, yeah, you know, she does a lot for other people. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
She goes out of her way. Who wants to come all the way to Houma just to take a whole bunch of pictures, you know? And you know what? The rabbit don't fit in the gas tank anymore. So, you know, is anybody offering her money? You know, look, I'm going to put a tank of gas. You leaving to go back home? Come to the filling station. Let the tribe put you a tank of gas. You know, the tribe can pay for a tank of gas. Trust me, they can. Even when we didn't hardly have nothing. They could have got together and paid for a tank of gas. What kind of film do you use for that camera? That's taking our pictures, you know? Let's go to the store and get them. Or here's some money. Buy them wherever it is that you buy your film.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, did anybody do it? But if you got a hand right here, what you got? You know what I mean? She did it on her own. You know?
Yeah.
That's what counts, is when you do things and you do it because. You know, and you did it because. But you know, God don't sleep. Some people actually think he sleeps. He never sleeps. He sees everything, and he knows everything. And he knows what she does, you know.
Yeah. Fierce Houma women.
Yeah.
It's
oh yeah.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
We're
yeah. That's the kind
blessed.
of stock I come from, though. You know, you can't help. You don't want to mess up. Really, you don't, because it would be like, I don't know, them not being proud of you or hurting their heart. Let me put it that way, you know. So you always want to try to put your best foot forward, you know, because these women, they gave it for you to be like that, you know. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I come from. You know? Both of my moms were, you know.
Yeah. Many moons into the future, your descendants are sitting around a table. What do you hope that they're remembering about you and your life?
Just the way I was. I hope that they can sit, and I hope that I have a big table full of great grandkids, because I don't want to go until I'm about 30 more years here. And I hope that every one of them's got a story in this. Which one can tell it first, you know? Let me tell you about this one that happened. Let me tell you what my Whitney did this time. Y'all would not believe this. And then the other one. Let me tell you, they either call me Whitney, which means grandma in our language, or Granny. It's either Granny or Whitney. I got some that calls me Whitney, some that calls me Granny. But that's what I'd want. I'd want everybody to say, let me tell you what happened this year. And I was young, but I remember this. And the other one, well, it was at my wedding. Let me tell you what my Whitney did. You know? Yeah. All good memories, you know?
Yeah.
And one thing, I hope they all say, Whitney used to say, Never, never forget where you come from.
Mm. Well,
My
circling.
dad used to say, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you come from?
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, and thinking back to Do Large and where you grew up, what is it like there now?
Oh, heartbroken. I hadn't been down Dularge in long, long, long time. And when I first moved down here, I went through some of the bayous, you know, and different, like day and night. It just, you know, just so they got more houses. Well, before the Hurricane Ida, they had more houses, and but just totally different and trashy. I couldn't believe the trashy looking. Uh, a long time ago, if a boat sunk in the bayou was much, 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 much bigger than it is today. Okay, all of the junk has closed it in. But if a boat sunk, you'd have neighbors that would come help you. Let's say Dad would wish, thank you, Jesus, it never did sink. But let's say with us, everybody said, Vic's boat sunk. Let's go help him pull it up, pull it out of the water. Okay? Girl, going down there, I seen so many boats in the water with just a little mast, some of them sticking out, some of them just a little cabin, a piece of the cabin sticking out. And they left it there. You know, I seen so much trash that I was, it hurt the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It hurt the heart. Because that's the same bayou we could swim out of.
Mm.
We used to swim in that bayou. The
Mhm.
bayou was bigger, no, nothing, you know, all junky and nothing, no drums or whatever you want to call it, you know. We had a big old rope that used to hang from the oak tree. And it was next to where we used to have our camp boat at, you know. And you could take that rope board and, you know, yeah. I mean, oh, you couldn't pay me enough to even touch the water. Oh, let me tell you this. You know, some of the herbs, when we'd get seasick, this is how clean the water was. When you're seasick offshore, back in the day, guess what they used to give you for being seasick? A cup of water out of the water that made you sick.
Mm.
Ask them.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, if the lake was rough crossing over to Blue Hammond, Dad would just get a cup of water. Keep taking some sip. In a few minutes, it's gonna go away. And girl, just like I'm sitting right here.
Wow.
You think I drink water nowadays, coming out of that lake? And that's what you do. Yeah. Get some water out there. But girl, there's no way I would ever swim anywhere right now. No way. Not with that eating disease of the brain and everything. What they call that?
Flesh eating
Yeah, yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. The what do they call that? Amoeba. That. is,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and it goes in your nose.
Yeah.
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 Well, you know, on the news, can I talk? It's okay. On the news, they had, 3 days ago, I think it was, they showed the picture of the guy, his foot, he was, and they said they didn't think they could even save him.
Mm. Mm.
That hurts the heart to see stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned a couple of times about the herbs that your mom used and the herbs that were found. Can you talk a little bit about the plants that you don't see anymore?
oh, a lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of
And-
those plants are gone. And you know, the sad part of it is, uh, I used to know them in French because that's all we spoke.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, we didn't know how to speak English. I always say until they beat it into us, you know, with rule, you know. But yeah, you know, the bois connu, that would be the oak. You take the peeling off and you boil the peeling. I was trying to ask Brave Eagle. It's a tree. You can take the peeling off, and it's good for all kinds of stuff. Okay, and you'd go to the swamp, and there was a thing that would grow in the swamp, and you'd pick it up, and root and all. You'd pick up the root and all, you know, and that was a good medicine too. I don't 90% or 95% of them, I don't know how to call it in English. Only if I see it, I would know. And then our nerve that grows in the yard, labamalo, I don't know how to call that in English. It's called laba. It grows on a vine, and that's really good. You take it and you pull it out, and it comes like a vine, and you ball it, and you can strain it, and a woman can use it to clean herself, you know. Yeah. And then they got another one called shval, patashval, horse hoof, and that grows outside too, and it makes a little round disc, you know, like it looks like a little round disc, okay, and that's good too. You take it, you wash it real good, and you can ball it, and that's good too for the inside and stuff, you know. But the English part of it, Jenny might know, because sometimes when I'm talking to Jenny and I tell her, she'll say yeah, and she'll know, but I don't know what they are in English, you know. But the thing that grows, how you call it in English, it makes a little purple on top.
Cattail.
Cattail, yeah. The bottom is a potato, you know. Yeah. I mean, we didn't go to the store and buy potatoes a long time ago. Our people, you know, they ate potato from the cattail and stuff, you know. And then the top part you can use for medicine too, you know. But there's so many. A lot of people ask me questions like that. What's the name? I don't know. I can tell you in French. Get somebody to translate it. You know? I got sage growing out there. You seen that, huh?
Yeah.
And I got sweetgrass. Different stuff, you know.
The actual property where the big house was and where your family lived, is that still around? Is the house still there, or
nope?
Is the property still in the family?
It was taken from us. That was my grandfather's land. He gave it to my dad, and when my dad died of a massive heart attack at 39 years old, that year somebody put the house on fire because the oil field wanted that piece of land. Okay, they had came to my mama and they wanted to lease the land. But come to find out, they didn't want my mama to sign to lease the land. She was gonna, if she'd have signed it, she'd have gave the land to the Texaco, okay, oil company. Yeah, and they was supposed to put a Christmas tree, what they call it, it's them gas pump that does this, you know. And girl, it was sad. Yep, they took it. Yeah.
They did take it.
Oh yeah, they took it. Yep. They took it, and we was too young to try to fight it. My mama wasn't educated, you know, and if you don't do your taxes like you're supposed to, you lose it. And then what the big shot does, he goes to the courthouse, he pays the tax on it or whatever. There it is.
And what happened to your family after they took the land?
My mama's mom and dad, we moved. We moved from Bar Dolores to Grand Caya to Dulac. And they built a house there, a little house, smaller. But by then, I was young. We all went to work, because you got to realize there was 10 kids. You know, my mama was pregnant for my baby sister. And my baby brother that's here, he was only 11 months old. And he was like 10 years old, and he was working like a man. I'm talking about raising big old sacks of oysters and all, you know. But all of my brothers, they all went to work just like us, you know, because back in those days you didn't make much money. I used to work 7 days a week, 12 and 16 hours a day, waitressing. And I got paid $15 a week. A week. Now they want $15 at McDonald's per hour. $15 a week, and that was working 12, 16-hour days. But when I first started working, I was like, I related to Bambi. You know, the little deer Bambi, the little cartoon story Bambi. You know, like you're with all of these people that you've never been with before, white people, black people, you know, and it was like a babe out of the wood. You know what I mean? It was so strange. I didn't know the menu. I had to actually memorize the menu. Every day I would take the menu, and because I had 22 tables I waited on by myself, yeah. And every day I would take the menu and I would read. And they had an old black woman that used to cook in the back, her and two other black women. And they knew how to read, and I didn't know hardly how to read good. And they would tell me words, tell me words. This is how much it is, Nang. This is how much this is, Nang. Until I got to be a pro. I worked for them people 19 years before I drove school bus. Yeah, 19 years.
Wow.
But those people, look, they were good to me. I mean, I was young. You have to realize I was like 14 years old, you know, by then, just turned 14, really. And so the man that owned the place, he kind of like really kept a good eye on me because, you know, you're young and you built like a little brick house back in those days, you know. So everybody, you know, the men, yeah, you know, I mean, really. And here I am so naive, you know. So, boy, he'd keep an eye, you know. A lot of time he told people, you leave that alone. That's nothing but a young girl, you know. You better go somewhere else, you know, stuff like that. Because you meet all kind of people, trust me.
That
But,
was
you
that
know,
a restaurant in Grand Caillou?
in Raceland.
Oh, in Raceland.
Yeah, in
okay.
Raceland. So, but girl, let me tell you, yeah, it was rough. But you know, I used to make the $15 a week. But you know what I did? They had this woman called Mama Knight, okay, and she used to come in the restaurant all the time, and I used to ask her to go and bring me to see my mama about once a week or once every 2 weeks because I missed her. When I first left home, I was crying for my mom at night. That's how much I missed her, you know, because I wasn't used to being away and stuff. And so this old lady would charge me $5 a gas. But she'd drive me from Raceland all the way to Dulac and all the way back, you know, and I'd save the money. Back then, you know what you got in tips? A nickel. Sometime if you got a quarter, that was good if you got a quarter. So I'd save my tips, you know, and that's how I paid her. And you know, they didn't charge me to stay. So at first, you know, I stayed in like a little room, you know, and I could eat at the restaurant, you know. And the man was very good. Him and his wife, they were good to me. They really were, you know. So I did 19 years I worked there.
Wow.
And then I remember when every time I graduated from $15 to $20, you know, and you know, I mean, it's out of this world. But the highest that I made in 19 years, the highest that I made in a pay was $35 a week. The highest. And that was working, yeah. And look, that was people that trust me. I had the combination to the safe, you know, everything. People would come to unload food or drinks or milk or whatever. I'd go in the safe, get their money, pay them, sign. By then I self-educated yourself, you know, through the years. Better than what I was when I first started, let me put it that way. And yeah, I'd sign the papers, put it in the safe, pay them whatever, you know. So they trusted me a lot, you know. I have to be thankful for working for good people that took care of me. I really do, you know, because I don't know what would have happened if I'd have got a hold of, let's say, a boss that wanted to take advantage of me. You know what I mean? And that happened. I used to see a lot of things going on there, you know, with young girls coming in and out we call them fly by night. They would come in and like maybe just work for 1 or 2 days just to get enough money so they could go to the next town and the next town depending where they were from, you know, because a lot of the people that came in for work was like people from Texas or whatever, you know, other states, and they just wanted enough money to get where they were going. So fly-by-nights is what my boss used to call them. And he could come sometime at 2 o'clock in the morning and come knocking on the door. Snooky, he used to call me Snooky. Snooky, I hate to do that, but can you please come? We got one that flew the coop. So, yeah.
It was a 24-hour place.
Oh, yeah, it was a 24-hour place, yeah.
Wow.
You know, but like I said, I've been blessed, really, yeah. Hard times, hey, what don't kill you make you stronger.
Indeed. That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So I'm good.
Yeah. So I have just a few more questions, and one thing I'm just curious about is uh, have you experienced land loss? Have you noticed the land changing?
Oh
Has
God,
that
yeah. Every year. I, you know, the people needs to wake up. People needs to wake up. Everything is different than what it used to be. Everything, including the water out of the lake, like I was telling you guys that you could drink at one time. You know, they'll kill you now. But we're losing. Let me tell you this little story. One year, my brother says, he used to work for a lawyer right here in town. And he says, I'm going to Louis St. Martin over here in town, big shot lawyer at one time, okay? He said, I'm going to Louis St. Martin's camp. He said, you want to come ride? I thought he was going to go by boat, okay? He says, I said, okay. I said, let me go get whatever it was I needed. No, no, no. He said, we're flying. We're going with the little seaplane, a little seaplane, one of them little tiny planes, you know. He said, we're going by seaplane. I'm saying, I don't think so, because I thought them things was always too small, you know. And he said, oh, come on, sis, it's going to be okay. So, girl, brave me. I mean, you know, my baby brother's going to do it. I'm going to do it too, you know. So, anyway, I get up there, and girl, when I got up there, we flew from Houma Airport to Blue Hammock, where we used to camp, and 9 months out of the year. I cried, I think, all the way going, and I think I cried all the way back. And this was, oh God, this must have been 20 years ago, okay, that this happened. Can you imagine what it would be like today? The only thing that was left was the little pollen sticking out of the water, about like this. 99% of the marsh is gone. It's gone. It's nothing but water. Where we used to run in the marsh, between the cattails and stuff. No more, girl. No more. Some of the places that we flew over, the only thing you could see was the road and the little houses on each side of the road. Everything else water. Everything else water. And this was about 15, 20 years ago when I took that ride in that little seaplane. Everything is different. Even the animals is different. If you pay attention, the animals is different. Even the food that you grow, like my tomatoes, even tastes different. The stuff that you grow, my squash and you know, zucchini and all, it don't have that squashy taste. It don't have that zucchini taste. A tomato don't even hardly taste like a good tomato no more. Is it just me? You know, yeah, it's so different, you know. I tell that to the kids all the time. I'll be eating something or cooking something, and I'm there. This sure don't do right, you know. The chicken is full of water. When you cut up a chicken and you want to cook a chicken, girl, or you want to pot fry it just in its own gravy, it throws so much water that by the time it's time for it to fry, it's falling apart. Oh yeah, I noticed all of that, all of it, you know. The pork meat, boy, when you ate a pork chop, it was a pork chop. You made a pork roast, you smothered that with onion and garlic. Big change. Big.
Yeah. So, what are your hopes and dreams for the future generations of Houma?
Oh, girl, I think about that often. I'm hoping that since we were too silly to do things that we were supposed to do and how we were supposed to do it, I'm hoping that the young ones could lead all of the young kids from the time they're very, very small until the time they're older. I'm hoping that they all wake up and smell the roses. I really do. That we need to do this. We need to take care of our land. We need to take care of our food. We need to take care of ourselves, our bodies. You know, don't be drugging it. Don't be smoking. Don't be alcohol in it. You know, and if you do it with moderation. You know, There's moderation in anything you do. I don't care if you're eating a plate of food, it don't have to be overloaded, you know. Everything in moderation, you know. So that's, I'm hoping that the young ones is what's going to save everything, you know, because if the young ones don't do that, what's going to happen to their kids and their grandkids and their great grandkids? What's going to happen? I think about that a lot. And guess what? When I do prayers, I ask Jesus, I ask God, please watch over our kids, our grandkids, our great grandkids. Let them think, let them use their brain, let them think, and most of all, let them pay attention and look. If they pay attention and look, they're gonna realize something ain't right. But you know, even on TV now, the young ones are noticing. The young ones is the one making more sense than some of the old people. You know, so that's my wish.
Yeah. Is there anything that you might recommend or a suggestion that the state or the federal government could do to help support the work of, you know, the work that you've done your whole life, which is your life work, you know, as a Houma woman, but also as a tradition keeper and bearer, or for the tribe in general?
Pay attention to us. You know, give us your time of day. Don't ignore us. We're a people just like anybody else. You know, we are here and we're not going nowhere. You know, so give us 5 minutes of your time, but just don't give it to get rid of us. Give it to us and let it sink in. When we're going to ask you for something or we need for you to do something, let it sink in. Oh, Dove said this. You know what? That's not bad. Maybe we can do that, or at least we can give that some thought. But be genuine when you do that, when you're going to talk to me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to say? This is a record, you know, that's going to be in the kind of archives of history for the United States government. And as a Houma woman who's seen so much, and is there just any other final words that you might like to share?
I'm just grateful that you guys are here doing this. I'm just grateful that I'm one in a drop in a big bucket that has the opportunity to say something, to do something, to be heard, if nothing else, to you guys, that's going to bring it over there and let those people know that's sitting behind a big desk pushing a pencil, that never witnessed a fraction of what we have, that they maybe take heed when we ask for something or when we want to do something, and to realize that the Indian people are here. We've always been here, so wake up. We're here. See us. Just see us, you know. Politics is something I try to stay out of. I really do. I do have my opinion, but I try to stay out of it, you know. But there's so much stuff that's politics today, you know. And they should put people before the politic, you know. They make rules of what they think. Like, they make rules about the women's body, you know. A woman can't do this now. She can't do that now. It's your body. You ought to be able to do what you want with your own body, you know. And they just had it on the news, you know. You can't do this, you can't do that. And I don't think that's right. You know, regardless what I believe or don't believe, each person is accountable to their own body. You know, and they don't need somebody that's pushing a pencil to tell them what to do with their body or when. You know, they just don't. You know, and if I think that you gonna say, okay, this is what I'm gonna say is a rule, and this is gonna be written in stone like this. And if you're gonna say, well, part of this is gonna be written in stone, but this part we're gonna let slide. How can you let slide somebody that maybe committed incest on a family, or somebody that maybe got raped? You know, how you can say, well, I'm pushing that on the side, that don't matter, but this matters. This part of it matters. You know. That's don't I don't see that. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think we ought to be in control of our own body. You know, I believe that with all my heart, and I don't care who hears it. You know, I really don't. Yeah, that's the way I feel about it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wish the government would pay heed to all of us. I don't care what color we are. If we're a people and we need help in any kind of way, shape, or form for whatever reason, you know, that's what they're up there for. It's supposed to be to help us, especially the Indian people, because we never holler. You hear all kind of other people hollering and protesting and doing this. We're always quiet. Sometimes we're too good for our own good. I'm serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your words and
you're very welcome.
for your prayers and for being you.